Hello and welcome to Formula Pro Round 5, powered by Traction.gg. Here for the wonderful Zandvoort circuit. It's been completely redone and we'll get into that a little bit. But let's first take a look at what happened last time out in a very soggy Indianapolis.
Bonner House is on pole position, looking for his fourth consecutive race victory. Kevin Siggy, second in the championship, lines up alongside with an all-burst second row of the grid. We're underway at the Brickyard, and it is a great launch, it seems, from Kevin Siggy, who's got straight into the slipstream of Bonner House. They've left the burst drivers at bay, and on that run down into the first corner, Kevin Siggy's gone to the outside. Bonner House holding the inside, and he's gone straight on. Mercedes are absolutely out of here, and Kevin Siggy coming through to take the race lead. As are the two burst drivers, it is chaos for Bonner House. Jovski diving it through here as well, and it is backwards for House. Kevin Siggy is running away right now, and this is big for the team's championships. We're seeing a bit of side-by-side further down the order. Valeriano and Casper Stoltz, so there's a little bit of contact. Coming into the pit lane, Alex Sewell and Manuel Biancalilla.
Yeah, it seems like they got a bit of damage because that's definitely not the pit window you normally want to be in.
Jovski, the Macedonian, to the inside of the Slovenian on that run into turn one, and Jone Simičić doesn't fight it. Oh, there's a bit of contact with Pajic.
Yeah, that gets really tight here.
And Jovski, they fought for 2 championships in GT Pro. There's the dive to the inside from Bonner House, up into third position, and Simičić is trying to get one back on him, but the Slovenian not able to do so. Lets the Dutchman go. Bonner House has. Let's take a look at this replay as we ride on board with Bono. It's just a send to the inside. I mean,
make sure that Kevin Siggy knows he's not quick enough to really stay the leader unless he's great at defending. That's Rietveld against Michi Hoyer. A nice pass here. Jovski, same looking car, different driver. Look how Jovski is charging onto Kevin Siggy around the outside now. Kevin Siggy was trying to defend the inside. Whoa. Might have the upper end going to the next one. Jovski nearly losing the rear there. Got lucky to catch the car again. And
Fiducci as well. Here comes Hoyer to the inside of turn one, diving it down there. And one lap, they switch. The next lap, they might well be switching again. Fiducci able to keep Cap at bay. Hoyer able to get by. Oh, Jovski's round. Sorry, I know we're not coming back to this, but Jovski is round. What has happened to Jovski?
And he's fighting now with Chinchik. It's now once again following. Let's take a look at the replay here.
Oh, too deep.
Oh yeah, he was too quick onto Kevin Siggy and then afraid they will touch the rear and then spawn out on the exit.
As Toman, this looks like a done deal. Slam dunk move from Yuri Toman to the inside on that run into turn one. And for Jovski, this is going from bad to worse and potentially even more so.
Varga Sim Racing, by the way, currently in 4th position. Obviously, Chinchik spinning around all on his own, losing control here.
Looking backwards from Rietveld. Fiducci, the Italian, diving it to the inside, looking for a top 5. Welcome to Formula Pro, Gianmarco Fiducci. He's trying to get inside the top 5. He's going to complete the move on the Team Redline driver, and Risto Capit's knocking at the door now, and he's instantly going for it. That's a mistake, and Rietveld's round.
Oh, horrible there. That move wasn't really on. It was a bit late there to dive up the inside, and what I wanted to say in terms of standings, it's the worst that could happen to Kevin Siggy. I mean, he's currently leading the race, but his teammate is nowhere near the top 3 currently to really reel in the big points. And it's not getting any better. There's a car going off. So
Jovski cops a pretty big whack through the middle of this. So hard on the brakes there, and Jovski coming in like a ton of bricks. Not really a good place, and obviously went straight into the wall. We've got Michele D'Alessandro and Stefanko going side by side a bit further down the order as they drop down a position. Jovski, bit of a mistake, and there goes another position. Not a good day for the 2-time GT Pro champion.
The stretch and Siggy once again covering the inside line. Bonner House sending to the outside. Let's see if both are actually on the brakes. That's a chance for the crossovers. They're basically the same mistake Bonner House did in lap 1, turn 1.
Fantastic stuff. I mean, just a little bit of a mistake as Fiduci's under pressure from Chinchik, who's got to the inside at T1. There might be a little bit of a brush. Nope, they do manage to get through there nicely. And you can see that Chinchik, he's done a move into T1, courtesy of the mistake from the Team Redline driver, makes the move, going down on the back straightaway and up back into 6th position as Fiduci's trying to make something stick going through the S's section. Well, that one's not really going to work. And
fight once again, but here we see the same fights over and over again as Rista Capit goes for Jeffrey Rietveld now into turn 1. That should be fairly simple for him, if I'm not mistaken, if he's early enough on the bricks. And, oh, nearly a switchback there from Rietveld. Wasn't enough, but there's Nuno Pinto going off.
So let's see what happens here between Fiducci. It's quite tight there. Oh, I'm not necessarily sure if there was space given or if there just wasn't really an overlap, or, well, probably the best angle is to see it from on board Jeffrey Rietveld. Let's take a look. So turn 1, complete, out quite wide. I'd say, respectfully, probably wasn't enough room given there. And
there should be enough. He's really close. Look at that. Indianapolis giving a long stretch for him to make that move. And then you really have to be precise on the braking. Otherwise, you lose that position. But that was perfectly executed.
It's been particularly great. Lap traffic, though, causing an issue for Bonner House. That one was Jordi Sveers.
Although he's a good driver, his teammate, Gianmarco Fiducci, next to, I think that's Jan van der Heijden.
Yeah.
Late on the brakes.
Let's take a look at this 3 wide. So you can see Fiducci in a little bit too deep there, and Jan van der Heijden's going for the cutback and trying to pick up all the positions. And I mean,
but he's now not as quick anymore. Wasn't he tapped a back marker. Yeah, that's it. Can we have more rain races but with the blue sky?
I think that might.
Oh
no!
He used it. Oh, don't tell me he got back on the track and and got Kevin Siggy.
Oh,
he did.
No, Ibra.
See which replay we get. That is the Kevin Siggy replay. Is that onto Yuri Tillman and Dennis Jordan? Wow, Tillman went in there with a Tokyo drift.
Let's take a look on board onto the grass. Just understeer kicked in, straight out onto the grass, and Erhan Yovsky, you can see a little bit of back markering in the way. That one might be Valeriano. I'm not really sure which one of the Musto GD Esports cars it was. And he's finished 15th in the previous 2 races, but did start out the season at Spa with a top 5 in 5th place. And you can see there, just getting back through. Very, very nice indeed.
Going back onto Rietveld, that's for sure. Fiducci against D'Alessandro. Fiducci on the outside, they definitely touch. There's a Williams Esports car just coming through here. Look at Peter Bielak just making it his own move, trying to get involved.
Be pretty harsh as Beliak's going to get the move on D'Alessandro into T1, although I'm not 100% sure if it'll be fully completed by the time they've slammed onto the brakes. D'Alessandro going for the cutback with BS competition on Williams around the outside at turn 2, maybe making that one stick. The answer to the question is no. But here at the Brickyard, Bonner House is going to make it.
And welcome back to Zandvoort. So that Indianapolis race was certainly very interesting, and it was something that was completely new because it was wet. The car is obviously pretty new. It only came out a couple of months ago now, and it was good to see that it actually ended up being a pretty interesting race. Most of the drivers pretty much going straight to the end of the race on those wet tyres as well. With still having the limited practice, they still managed to work that out. So it's great to see indeed. But then we turn our attention obviously to Zandvoort here today, where it has been completely redone. There was basically an alpha version of the track that was released about 18 months ago now, which was obviously a really good step in the right direction, but it needed to be worked on and redone to make it up to the quality of the current tracks that we see with Monza, Spa being some recent DLCs as well. And we've got a little video to show you some of the things that have happened to the track in the dev team behind the scenes. And there's some really cool footage here from some of the artists just to show you some of the work that has gone into it. And Aidan, you can just see here just sort of the amount of data that's been used to really make this Zandvoort track as high quality as possible.
Yeah, it's a much bigger area than you think. Usually you just think it's the actual track itself and then maybe 200, 300 meters away, but you can see like right over the back end into the nature reserve over the end of the north end of the track. This is the sort of the back side of the track, and there's the side by side. So you've got like the raw data on the left, on the right you've got like the mesh, and then when it's all actually done and dusted right there in the middle. So setting up the base wear and the groove output, so it's got some rubber on it now, looks a bit more worn in, and then the wet reflections, which we're not going to see today because I think it's a dry race, and then balancing it all out as the track dries out as well. And it just looks so good compared to the older version, which was very lumpy. It was almost like someone had converted it from the original rFactor or something similar like that. But this version, I mean, we've both driven it, we've been out, and it's just like, what is this? This is totally new, and that shot, that's just beautiful. with all the PBR and everything else going on as well.
Yeah, it really does feel like a different track when you're driving it. If you were one of the lucky ones to drive the older version of the track in the last year or so that it's been in rFactor 2. But as I said, it's been completely redone over, scanned again, and it is just effectively a new track. And the best part is it is free on the Steam Workshop. So if you have rFactor 2, jump on the Steam Workshop and you'll be able to get yourself there. But today we're obviously going to be racing around this brand new track as well, the 5th round as well, so already the penultimate round of the Formula Pro series as well. So we're really getting to that point where we're going to be looking towards the sort of championship standings as well, because that's going to be very important after today's race, because there's only including this one, 2 races to go.
Yep, this and then Monza. So we're going from like almost a street circuit with the tightness and the twistiness of this track and how narrow it is in places, particularly through Sector 1, then onto the Temple of Speed, the newest, along with this, obviously the newest DLC available there. You can see it on the 27th of September, round 6, the final round. You know, if Bonner House wins this round, his home race, what are the chances of him locking out the entire season for Season 1 of Formula Pro powered by Traction? But yeah, looking forward to Monza. It's just going to be completely different. Just minimise the wings, try and get all the mechanical grip you can, and it's completely different to this high downforce setup that we're going to have here tonight.
Yeah, completely different styles of tracks, but both very interesting indeed. Zandvoort, I should say, is almost like a street track without the barriers being so close, although there is actually quite a lot of gravel here that if you go into, you can actually lose quite a bit of time as well. So the drivers are really going to have to get up to speed with that. And obviously they would have been practicing over the last couple of weeks, but it's going to be a difficult one to master. And hopefully the drivers are going to be able to really get used to this track. It looks quite well. It looks, I would say, not too difficult on paper, but it's actually really difficult with where some of the apexes are, with how wide some of the corners are, but also just how fast it is, especially in Sector 2.
Well, you mean you take Tarzan corner there, turn 1 into whatever that says, and into whatever that says, turn 3. I'm not going to try and pronounce these Dutch words. I'll just like offend everybody. But you know, turns 1 and 3 being banked as well. So you want to try and carry as much momentum you can through without ruining your exit speed. You know, turn 9, very tricky, and then this one, the CM.com corner, it's very long. It goes on forever up towards this very, very tight chicane where it's got like a right-hander 90 degree and then almost a hairpin, and then 13 and 14 here, Ari Dyke corner that takes you out onto the start-finish track. That's where the DRS will be opened, and it will be opened on the actual banking, which would be pretty cool.
Yeah, and that banking is probably the most important part about these track changes. We're going to see it here through turn 3, and you're really going to see the drivers use that higher line compared to the more conventional tighter line that you would see in a corner like that. But the banking really pulls you around the corner, pulls that front end in, lets you get on the power before you work your way up to this amazingly fast sequence of corners. I mean, even this right-hander up here is just so fast, and you've really got to have the car nice and balanced, otherwise you're going to be spinning and going off into the gravel.
Yeah, and that left front tyre as well just takes an absolute hammering. I mean, I've been trying myself for Formula Challenge to try and minimise the wear, but it's just it's a losing battle, especially if you lock up as well. You're just going to ruin the right-hand turning ability of the car, and then up towards turns 13 and 14 here, so drop it down to 3rd. Hit the apex, try not to take too much curb on the exit because the car will ground out, and then just absolutely floor it through the final corner, DRS wide open up towards the start finish line. Probably see some penalties for speeding the pit lane as well, because you're basically slowing down virtually as soon as you get off the racing line here.
Yeah, it's going to be quite difficult indeed. And here we have the Tyre Rules. So the Tyre Rules were obviously changed a couple of races ago. So now they basically have to use both or 2 different compounds of tyres, I should say, which for most drivers will be the soft and the medium, because the hards are just that little bit too slow, really, because we do expect basically just a simple one-stop strategy for most of these drivers. But the important part as well is that they have to start on the same compound that they qualified on. So some drivers who want to do something a little bit different might try and qualify on those mediums to be really fast at the end of the race, but will have to work themselves out. But also, we said there's a one-stop, but because of the higher tyre wear we get on a circuit like this where there's so many corners, we might even see a couple of 2-stops if someone's feeling a little bit frisky.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't seen the hards at all this season. I don't know if anybody's actually done any testing on them, but we might see that. Someone trying to take the hard side, because it's so difficult to overtake here as well. DRS won't be that powerful. You can pretty much keep people behind you with the train that we saw. Was it Risto Capit at the Nürburgring? Just had that train of people behind him, and they couldn't get past because of how tight and twisted the track was. But here's the race format on your screen. So they're going to have 15 minutes of qualifying with 6 laps available to them, so they can either go out and do a 4-lap run, which would just be stupid, or they can go out and effectively get 2 hot lap runs. So your out lap and your in lap count as 1 lap, and if you go over, you'll be disqualified. And then it's part of FOMO rules, so brake balance, engine mapping, steering rack, and the front wing can be changed after that. The race has to be started on the same tyre, as you said, Cam, of the tyre you qualified on. So if you qualify on mediums, you've got to start on the mediums, and they've got to use 2 compounds during the race. And with no rain inbound, we're going to be seeing a soft, medium, soft, or maybe 2 stoppers, or some mad lads going for the hard option.
Yeah, we'll certainly see. I think it's actually going to be quite an interesting race. As you know, this type of track obviously isn't going to promote just constant overtakings, but what it will do is have a really interesting strategic battle because of the nature of the track. And I do expect there to be some variance with the strategy today. But what are they playing for? Well, round per round, so basically per race as well. We have the prize for the drivers, which is $250 for the winner, all the way down to $40 from everyone from P8 downwards. So still, some really nice money, especially for someone like Bono House, who seems to be winning all these races. But the main prize in this championship is for the teams. So it's not just about your one best driver, it's about having 2 drivers that can really challenge for the front, because the winning team gets $5,000, and obviously that works its way down to 13th place. And it's some really nice prizes for these guys to be fighting for, and that is just why they fight so hard on the track.
Yeah, it's different to all the other championships in rFactor 2 with the Challenger Pro Series over in GT, and obviously Formula Challenge as well, which will be on Friday evening. It's more based around the teamwork rather than just having one driver that can just go out and smash it every single race. And there's the points standings. Team Redline leading because of the fact that while Bono House has won every single race, his teammate Marco Pajic hasn't been doing that well. It's sort of like the real Mercedes AMG Petronas team at the minute, with one driver being able to be at the top and the other driver, got served his P45 recently. So it's that's why Team Redline with Siggy and Rietveld, who haven't won a race, are up there.
But it's only 3 points, so it's still very close indeed. There is a bit of a gap to the cars behind, but that battle between those 2 teams is just so close. And once again, it is because Ziggy and House have been there up the top pretty much every race, but Rietveld and Pajic, they've been a bit inconsistent. So if those 2 can be very consistent, then that can really change it as we get towards the end of the race. But obviously that battle for 3rd, 4th, 5th, etc. is going to be really tight in the teams as well. But looking at the Drivers' Championship, no real guesses as to who's leading the way. Bono House, he's won all 4 of the races so far. And then Kevin Ziggy there with being on the podium every time as well. But being 26 points behind and 35 points for a victory, he actually needs to get a move on a bit here, because if he has a bad race today, then Bono House could theoretically be the Drivers' Champion. But with there being only 1 point per position, once you get down off the podium, the points can stay very close indeed. And as you see there, it's very easy for some of these positions to swing one way or another.
Yeah, especially with Jan van der Heijden not racing today. He's there in 12th, so there'll be a blank in his Zandvoort box there, so he'll remain on 71 points at the end of this. He's been replaced by Ibrahim Khan, so with that 1 point as well, when you don't turn up for a race, you can lose out bigly. So if Marco Pajic has a decent run in this race, he will leapfrog Van der Heijden by quite a bit in the grand scheme of things, because he'll have actually finished a race that Van der Heijden didn't turn up for.
Indeed, and that is pretty much all the information that you're going to need for this Zandvoort race. Round 5 of the Formula Pro Series has been an amazing season so far. The racing's been great, and I'm sure we're going to get another one. Obviously, 60 minutes of action coming your way in a few minutes' time. But first of all, will be the qualifying session, of course, and Rene and Lewis will be there to take you through all of the action. So we hope you enjoy the race.
And it's time once again to dive into the rFactor 2 Formula Pro Series with another exciting race. My name is Ronnie Portland. Alongside, I got Lewis McLeod bringing you all the action live from the racetrack, from the beautiful racetrack that is Lewis, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Zandvoort's a fantastic track. It's one of those ones that's difficult to overtake at. It's one of those ones that's hard to race at. It's one of those ones, though, that you need to be a good driver to get around. It's a tricky circuit and updated brilliantly and just in time, of course, for today's race.
Yeah, nearly as if they planned it, right?
Yeah, it might be a little bit.
Could happen, but we're halfway through now in terms of our championship here at the rFactor 2 Formula Pro Series, and Zandvoort, it's a tricky course, not an easy one to get around, and then not an easy one to get around of your opponents in the actual race action. So what do you expect from today's race?
Realistically, I'm thinking we're going to see a couple of trains in the first half of the race. I'm thinking it's going to be a calm start. Now, bear with me on that one. The first lap will be a bit manic. We're going to see a bit of a calm first few laps. Then once some pit stops come in, once some strategy comes in, this race will explode, because then track position will become so critical in that second half. In the first half, it'll be about extending fuel mileage. It'll be about extending all this kind of stuff and not racing too hard. But in that second half, it is going to go absolutely ballistic. Remember, we've only got 2 rounds left of this championship. We've got today, and then we finish off the season at Monza in just 2 weeks' time. We're so close to the end now. Bunner House is in such level of control, even after making that mistake at turn 1, which I don't think we'll see again at all this season, if not ever in his career. Managed to bounce back, managed to take another win.
Yeah, it's like he's the current leading driver in terms of the driver standings, but we know that the rFactor 2 Formula Pro Series is all about the team standings, and surprisingly, I would say, with seeing Bonner House always on the top step basically of the podium, it is not the Mercedes-AMG Petronas Esports team leading. Instead, it's Team Redline with Kevin Siggy and Rietveld there, and it seems like they're really dialed in right now, ensuring to always get maximum points for the Redline outfit, while Mercedes-AMG Petronas team is still struggling a bit with their second driver, Marko Pajic, to really get the points in and reel them in to get Bonner House and the rest of the team up to the podium spot. So with only 2 races left, I think that will be the big battle, right? And we were kind of wrong with strategies the previous races, because teams always come up with something new. So how important you think it will be now to really nail the absolute best strategy instead of being fast on the track?
Yeah, I mean, to go back to the point on Mercedes with Pajic, is should Pajic actually just click? I mean, he has got the pace. We've seen this before from Pajic in other series and such. He has got the pace. We've seen it before even this season. He just needs to click. He needs to figure out the car that little bit better. And the moment that he starts ticking off a couple of top 5 results here and there, Bunner House is doing the rest of the work in that team. And I'm sure they'll be able to challenge for the championship. The problem is they're going up against Kevin Siggy and Jeffrey Rietveld. Rietveld's had a couple of bad rounds this season and has had a couple of podiums as well. And Kevin Siggy has this bulletproof consistency, only really matched and then beaten by Bunner House himself. So in that sense, you need to be perfect to beat a team like Redline, but there's still a third of the season left in that sense. So there's still time, and it's days like this on circuits like this where those can change around, because while strategy is critical, the most important thing, same as with every track, but you go to some like Paul Ricard and whatever, and you can fly off all over the place. Around a circuit like this, you can't make a mistake, because if you go off a little bit too fast around turn 7 at Shevlac, you're going off. You're going off big style, and you will not be seen again in the day's action.
Yeah, it's not a great racetrack if you really want to go for a picnic somewhere, either at the beach or at the grass, in terms of where you could crash. But talking about the track and the challenge that it poses to the drivers, it's also one of the tracks that we did not feature previously, right? And with the new layout, it's also a track where not everyone has tons of experience compared to, let's say, Silverstone or Spa or even Nürburgring that we visited before. So it will be interesting to see which team is dialed in the best to have a big impact here. So far, Jordi Swears for the first time is leading 1:09 seconds, while Marcel Cicic for Varga Sim Racing is also out there on the track. Varga Sim Racing currently 4th position, so they have been before the previous race as well, so they did not move, while we saw Burst Esports moving up to 3rd. So really close now to Redline and Mercedes-AMG Petronas. Varga, one of the teams that could be kind of playing the underdog role here.
Yeah, I mean, look, they're aiming to move up in the championship in the team side of things to try and get inside the top 3, to try and relinquish Burst Esports of that position and earn themselves a bit more prize money. It's very, very tight between them. Just a single point separating Burst and Varga. RHG only 3 points behind after that terrible round from Erhan Yovsky. Started out really well and then just fell apart towards the end of it. But around a circuit like this, when it comes to being dialed in, of course you've got teams like this, Redline. Of course you've got our championship contenders between Redline and between Mercedes. But there are other teams and such which I would focus on in this as Pajic departs the final corner down towards the line to set a 108.688. You've got teams like Burst with Michi Hoyer, who went well around here in the Formula Sim Racing World Championship. Hey, Williams and Petr Berlak won this race in the Formula Sim Racing World Championship at this track, so has experience on going quick around this circuit. Come to a field as strong as this, and you've got to beat someone like Bonnehaus, who is now racing on home soil, which has its own little boosts in it. They're going to be very, very hard to beat, but they are not unbeatable on a day like this.
Definitely not. I think everything can happen still in the Formula Pro Series here, and we see Aristocap currently being in second. Obviously, RJ Esports dropped down to fifth in the team standings, but Yayovsky seems to be really, really fast currently. It's kind of like the glimpse of what he had been previously in the GT Pro Series. So I wonder what he can do today. While we're talking about Yayovsky, he just comes across the line and slots in third, right in front of his teammate Risto Capit and right behind Jeffrey Rietveld and Bonnehaus. And so, by the way, no matter how often we switch to one of the Red Bull Racing Esports cars, I think they always look absolutely gorgeous on these cars. And Dennis Jordan, let's quickly see where he is in terms of driver standings. His teammate Alex Siebel is in 16th, while Dennis Jordan is in 10th. So definitely a driver that can be there up well within the top 10 or even better.
Yeah, I mean, not had the greatest season has Dennis Jordan so far. They were aiming for some decent results coming into the season, but then as things happen, when the season begins, things become a little bit more difficult. Set the fastest lap of the race in the first race of the season, but after plenty of issues, they didn't really score too many decent points. Coming into the last round of the season, Dennis Jordan finally got his first top 10 of the season. Speaking of first decent results of the season, this driver, Gianmarco Fiducci, seemed to figure out those wet weather conditions that we had last time out at Indianapolis after running inside the top 10 and hey, even the top 5 legitimately. A couple of mistakes towards the end of the race and then getting stuck in traffic a little bit, ended up 12th on the road, but looking for something a little bit better. Back to Dennis Jordan. As you say, they'll want to tick off some decent results here, but as does everyone. It's a silly point to make. I was speaking to DJ a little bit earlier, and he says that the aim in the team is just to get a solid top 10 around here, to really sort of consolidate their position, to take some strength with where they are. Kevin Siggy's first lap onto the board is not a good one, and that could be big. Kevin Siggy across the line, only good enough for ninth. And remember as to how these qualifying sessions work, they only realistically get 2 flying laps in these conditions. Only 2. You need to nail it.
Yeah, it's a bit unfortunate to see Kevin Siggy here currently being in 10th only. I think that's the first time that we see that, so he got one more shot to make up for that. But there will be a ton of pressure on his shoulders, while we see Michi Hoyer also going up for the very first time. Good look, Bianco Lila in 10th, so even he's quicker than Siggy. That worked well. We see Williams Esports, they're currently in 6th in the team standings, and the quickest driver is Peter Berlak, currently in 9th. Let's see where his teammate is. I think he didn't post a time just yet. But yes, with only 8 minutes on the clock and everyone having one last shot, it will be once again go down to the wire here in that 15-minute qualification run. Great to get that information on your screen once again, because obviously we have to state that the race must be started on a new tire of the same compound as in the race. You need to use 2 different compounds. That doesn't apply if it's a wet race. That's what happened in Indianapolis. But here in Zandvoort, you will have to run different tires. And so there could be the strategy of going for hards first or mediums, basically, and start with them and then have softs in the later half of the race. But that will have a big impact on your qualification. And since Lewis already said, it is hard to overtake, and probably it all goes down to the pit stops, we might not see anyone trying to not run the soft tires, I would say, because they really, really need track position early on.
Yeah, I mean, the thing will be about trying to shrink your pit stops, etc., a bit later on in the race. I mean, realistically speaking, So bear with me because it sounds crazy, but if you get the timing right on it, I wouldn't even necessarily rule out, because it's quite a high tyre wear circuit, as Danny Kish on his return to Formula Pro, as thankfully he's recovered from his issues that kept him out of the previous rounds and ride on board with Bonnerhouse around his home circuit through Tarzan at T1. It's the kind of circuit you might actually see a sneaky two-stop strategy if you can dominate enough. I mean, this team pulled it off at Silverstone. Look at the banking here, absolutely throwing it in the classic like that we saw in Formula 1, going right up the banking, very much like short track oval racing, up through the S's section, down towards Shevlak, where it just drops away. Really keep that nose on the white line, but if you turn in a little bit too much and hit the curb, you'll understeer quite dramatically. Down into the slowing down section. This is where we'll see some sneaky dive bombs. I'm absolutely sure of that. And as we exit Sector 2 here, Rene, this is where things get really, really tight. And a dive bomb down here can be pretty disastrous, pretty bold, pretty successful, mind.
Yeah, it is definitely possible. And I think the biggest challenge in terms of overtaking is the change of pace and rhythm. Sector 2, all of a sudden, you will get to be a lot slower, right? That opens up on the long left-hander, the 180-degree left-hander. It gives you a chance to dive in there. And if you didn't make it around there, you might try for that chicane that we just saw. But the chicane, I mean, it's kind of like Monza, right? There's only one good line through it, and everything else might end in absolute disaster. But they're still racing drivers. They want to make a move, and if they can go alongside, then they want to try. Well, we see Erniowski up to second position. Great lap from him here for RAJ Esports, right behind Bonnerhausen. Rietveld on third, Siggy on fifth, so his second lap was a bit quicker than the first one. And he slotted at least into the top 5 for now. I just wonder, Page on fourth, I think that's really good start for them now, because with Bonnerhaus leading the driver championship, they have to aim to finally be back in control on the team standings as well.
Yeah, well, right now he's in position to decently outscore Team Redliners. Kevin Siggy's qualifying. He's done with his session and only fifth is the position that he's in. Jeffrey Rietveld still has another lap left to go. Marcel Chinchik, the teammate of the driver that we're on board with now, Yuri Toman, is also on track doing his lap just behind Toman. And the two, they've had a couple of mares with qualifying recently. Started out brilliantly and running very, very well. Were doing really great after the first round of the season of the championship. However, things have fallen apart for them a little bit in the recent past. We'll see what Toman could do across the line. Improves up to 6th position. That is a bit more like it. What is Marcel Chinchik going to do directly behind? Across the line, it's looking even better. And Marcel Chinchik goes onto the front row of the grid. Did not see that one coming. That is an absolutely superb qualifying lap.
Yeah, great run there for the Vargas Sim Racing driver. I mean, look at that. He's sending Yovsky down to the second row. Same for Rietveld, who's now in 4th instead of 3rd. So, yeah, Chinchik, great run. His teammate, Toman, is in 7th. So they look quite strong right now, besides Mercedes and Redlines. It's the 3rd strongest team. And Burst Esport with Simoncic and Hoyer on 9th and 11th. Bit lacking there in terms of getting the qualification done in the right direction for them.
Liam Duval across the line, only 16th position for him, just ahead of Jan Grankvist, who's beginning his final stint. Liam Duval has just finished his first stint, so there's still another lap in them. This is Ibrahim Khan's final lap, jumping in to replace Jan van der Heide. Of course, got into the trouble. Didn't actually get a penalty for it or anything like that, but more was under the watchful eye of us in the commentary booth, not Jimmy Allison, after an incident with Kevin Siggy in the previous round of the championship back at Indianapolis, going down into the penultimate corner. That was, jumping in last minute to assist the team. This has been a bit more of a plan, as Jan van der Heide was not able to make it to this round, and so Ibrahim Khan jumping in alongside Danny Kishin, out-qualifying his slightly more experienced teammate on his return to the championship. 15th position at the moment for Khan, and down the order in 23rd is Kish, although I get the feeling, at least for Khan, this ain't going to be an improvement. We'll see what it is towards the line. It's currently sat on the 109.0 and across it 109.2 basically, and so no improvement there. Jone Simoncic, I believe, is on his final lap or is about to start it. Jeffrey Rietveld's on his out lap. Also, there's a couple of decent qualifiers on here. Of course, we've got Marcel Chinchik up there. We've got Yuri Toman. We've got Manuel Biancalilla up inside the top 10, which has had a top 10 this season previously. That was at the Nürburgring, but still looking much, much better in qualifying at the moment.
And the Traction.g team already asking, is Bono getting pole, and at least for now, it looks like that, although young Granquist at least gets up to 15th now, so that was the spot of Ibrahim Khan previously, who couldn't improve on his second attempt. But Jeffrey Riedfeld will want to try. He's the quickest Team Redline driver for now, and Kevin Siggy does not have another shot, so if Redline wants to be in the front row, then it is on Jeffrey Riedfeld to do that now, and now there has to beat Chinchik or Bono House. It's just great to see them going in here into the banking and really fire it up, and then running along the outside. It's kind of like a roller coaster through the beaches here. I absolutely love Zandvoort when it comes to the up and down that it features, and amazing camera shots that we can get every single time. Purple sector in the first, so Jeffrey Riedfeld definitely on a run to see if he can get Redline up into the first row and challenges Bono House here and the Mercedes-AMG Petronas Esports team for the title in the Formula Pro Series. Next team would be Burst Esports, and currently they do not look like they can really attack here, and Zandvoort might have to switch that to Monza, but Riedfeld already lost out here in the second sector.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to lie. I think Burst have got bigger issues when it comes to their focus on Varga for third in the championship. Jeffrey Riedfeld trying to grab pole position across the line. It's purple sector 1, it's purple sector 3, but it is not good enough across the line, and he'll have to start another driver in his home Grand Prix from 4th position. Things are looking better and better for another pole position as Bono House looks to potentially go for a sweep of the whole season. Has done 4 consecutive race victories on the bounce to this point, looking for his 5th this evening. We'll see what he can do. Mohammed Patel, a driver who's had plenty of success in open wheelers, has sort of struggled on occasion to get to grips, has had bizarre results, in my opinion, this season. Has finished 5th, 15th and 5th. Loves those 5s. And we'll see what he can do today. At the moment in qualifying, just 18th as a seagull gets completely in our way as a cost.
Yeah, I love that seagull always coming across the camera there. Lovely little detail. Liam DeWall, he's still out there for Wolf's GR Esports, and 2 yellow sectors so far, so it looks like he will improve massively. A bit of twitch on the rear coming out of the turn there for his car, but at least way more planted than we had seen the Wolf's GR car in previous races. They were struggling with the setup and ensuring that the drivers get a car they can work with, as he's not improving or coming across the line, so he will remain 19th.
They're a bit of an oddity. Is Wolves GR Esports, because they started out the season so strong, so strong at Spa, and then it was if, like, I mean, it's kind of one of those things where you assume that they've just missed something, and missed a trick that everyone else has figured out. But it was as if, like, they went back, everyone else was doing the same kind of thing, but they took an enormous step backwards and have never been able to re-find at that pace and that consistency. It's a bit of a sad situation for Liam Duval and Jan Granqvist, although I will say with Granqvist, having quite comfortably out-qualified his more experienced teammate in the Formula Pro Series. So looking much better for Granqvist, who jumped in very last minute, has finished down the back end of the orders that we've had in the 2 races that he's done, but things are looking a little bit better. Started out quite well in Indianapolis before dropping off in the final kind of half of the race, but you never know. Either way, with qualifying done, it's a similar story. Bono House, pole position, but Marcel Chinchik on the front row. That's a wild card for House.
Yeah, absolutely love that Varga Sim Racing managed to get a car in the front row, and as you said, normally Bono House is kind of fighting against Kevin Siggy or Riedfeld going down into turn 1, and now he gets Marcel Chinchik. Oh dear, hardly pronouncing names today, but it will be an interesting one, because it's a new challenge for him, and let's see if Chinchik might be willing to go a bit more aggressive, because they can, right? They would love to come out of this race with an incredible result at the end, but in case he doesn't make it, it's not like they're losing the championship with it.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, when it comes to the championship, obviously it's still open. Bono House, I think, is not secured. It must be said. It can be secured today, but I'm not even going to go into the maths. I was always told never trust a commentator's maths. Let's be real. If he wins the race today, that's done. I mean, if he finishes in perfect honesty, it's pretty much sorted. And I think anyone would be hard pressed to try and wrestle the title off of him. But when it comes to the main focus of us here in Formula Pro, it is obviously that team's championship. As you've said before, Team Redline leading by 211 points, Mercedes behind by just 3 points. So it's very, very tight between the two of them, with House having another pole position, with Page looking a little bit better. Mercedes seem to be trying to bounce back here, especially after a poor qualifying from Kevin Siggy. Looks to try and continue his podium streak, which he's got 4 consecutive podiums, looks for his 5th. The only driver to have been on the podium every single race, obviously alongside Bonner House. But then that battle for third, Rene, with Burst, 174 points, but they've qualified badly around here. Averagely, we'll go with that. It's a bit more fair. Vargas in Racing have qualified fantastically. They're just a point behind. And then R8G, Risto Capit, did qualify quite well. When you know how Erhan Yovsky is in the race, they are just a further 3 points behind. Those 3 teams separated by 4 points with 2 rounds to go.
Yeah, it will definitely be an interesting finish to the series. And without saying something bad about Mercedes-AMG Petronas Esports or Bonner House, obviously I would love to see someone else winning just so that it remains open before we head over to Monza. Talking about open, I thought Bonner House would have been the quickest each time, but I just checked once again. Bonner House was the fastest lap in the race at Silverstone, but he wasn't at Spa, because Spa, that was Dennis Jordan. So completely different, because he wasn't even inside the top 10. And then at Nürburgring, it was Jeffrey Riedfeld for Redline. And then once again at Indianapolis, it was 18th position Erhan Yovsky for RG Esports claiming the fastest lap. So let's see if he at least makes 3. There's still a chance for Bonner House to get 3 fastest laps if he does it today in Monza. But it's not as dominant there as people might expect out there.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with Bonner House, I would, again, this is kind of a bit harsh to say in a sense, because obviously he's won all of the races, but I wouldn't always say he's necessarily the fastest. I mean, he hasn't had pole position in every race. He didn't have pole position in the first 2. Jeffrey Riedfeld was the one taking that honour in the opening 2 races of the season. He's had pole position since, mind. But my point from that is that coming into the races, it's not necessarily just his pace that's a sellout thing. Other drivers are able to get quite close to his pace. In this warm-up session that we're in right now, by the way, that's why we're seeing cars driving around. They're in warm-up getting ready for the race in about sort of 70, 80 seconds time. He's not top. Jeffrey Riedfeld is top. Jone Simoncic isn't that far behind him. It's the level of consistency that he brings to the table. The fact that he's looking after his tyres, conserving fuel, he has shorter pit stops, and is just bulletproof in that consistency, with the specific exception of turn 1, lap 1, Indianapolis. The only mistake we've seen from him.
Yeah, that was a surprise for all of us. We discussed that previously, what we see Marcel Cinčić doing a test start here as the Formula Pro Series. One of the rare occasions where drivers have to start off the grid and rather than having a rolling start. But yeah, it was that situation where we thought Bonner House has the upper hand because he got so much experience and he never does a mistake. And then we catch it live on camera how he runs wide and loses the lead on the race. Still, I mean, he managed, let's say that. So it was absolutely fine in the end, but maybe that was the start of things to come. So can Marcel Cinčić maybe pressure Bonner House now into mistake? And is that on Bonner's mind going into turn 1? Normally, with all the experience he has, I would say no, but who knows? Racing is different each and every time.
Yeah, you never really know. The thing is with Bonner, he's got so much experience to fall back on when it comes to this that I don't think necessarily he's going to be the most concerned driver that you've ever seen. I think he's going to be pretty calm behind the wheel of his Mercedes-AMG Petronas esports car on that run down to turn 1. It's a tricky turn 1 though. The banking and such does make it a little bit dicey, especially when it comes to dives and such down the inside. And when you run down into the other hairpin at T4, knowing what the right line is actually surprisingly difficult.
Sometimes I got the feeling it changes every single lap, or at least if I type that line's not the best one anymore, but these drivers definitely know, and it will be interesting to see how much side-by-side action we get in lap 1, because it's normally not really a track where you can do that for long.
No, let's take a look at the starting order then. From the 5th round of the season, it's the 3rd consecutive pole position from our championship leader, looking for his 5th consecutive race win. He's joined alongside the front row with Marcel Cinčić, Erhan Yovsky and Jeffrey Riedfeld on row 2. Behind that, Marko Pajic looking fantastic in qualifying, up in 5th place, getting ahead of Kevin Siggy and getting one over on their championship rivals in the team side of things. Yuri Toman and a great qualifying from Manuel Biancalilla in 8th spot. Jerne Simoncic, not a great qualifying as he drops down to 9th place. They've been getting better in the races, but Risto Capit from 10th. Michi Hoyer and Dennis Jordan look to do better things from 11th and 12th. Peter Berliak, race winner here in the Formula Sim Racing World Championship, 13th position from him, unlucky for some. Alex Siebel, Jan Grankvist outdoing his teammate quite a bit there, with Ibrahim Khan also doing so, jumping in for a second round in the Formula Pro Series. Gianmarco Verducci up in 17th position with Mohammed Patel behind him, alongside on row number 9, Liam DeVal and Jordi Zviers on row 10. Giordano Valeriano with Nuno Pinto, who had a decent race a couple of times this season, but never really has the qualifying to back that one up. Martin Stefanko and Danny Kish, the final drivers to set times in that qualifying session, as Michele D'Alessandro and Casper Stoltz did not put a time on the board. They'll be starting from the rear of the grid, which could be a great call to dodge some of that carnage on lap 1, Rene. But like you say, the lines change all the time, and particularly on lap 1, you don't necessarily want to hold a tight line because the concertina effect can really get your freight trained.
Yeah, definitely. And there's so many risks now involved here in lap 1, and we've seen Stefanko not qualifying that well. It puts Williams Esports in general under pressure, right? Because they're currently in 6th, right behind RAG Esports, and in front of Red Bull Racing Esports and BS Competition. And if they're not aware and not blocking it well, with Stefanko now having a comeback in the race, then they might lose that spot and drop all the way down to 9th or worse, depending on what Rocket Sim Sport does today. Because Ibrahim Khan, he said it, he outqualified his teammate, he's doing well so far. I mean, put him on whatever car, and he performs really, really well. And he does so here as well. While the Seagull passes once again, I think it's called Dave now, according to the vote. Although I heard Steven Seagal is also an option. Like
Steven Seagal, I like that.
Brought up by Aidan Millward. Obviously, he's a creative one. While we get all the cars on the grid and just waiting for the back markers kind of to make it on as well. The last cars come around the banked finishing corner as we wait to get everyone lined up. Interesting strategy also in terms of how they lined up their cars there in the first 5 rows, I would say, as everyone went for a different style of putting the cars in the right place.
I think some of these are going to go very, very aggressive. Well, penultimate round then in the rFactor 2 Formula Pro Series, powered by Traction.gg, about to get underway here in the dunes of Zandvoort. Aggressive angle from Marcel Cinchik, who's on the front row with Bunner House from pole position. House going to lead down on home soil into turn 1. It's a good launch as we dive it down into Tarzan. House going to lead from Cinchik. Erhan Yovski, a bit of side-by-side in the background as Siggy's already trying to get past Marko Pajic, dropping down into the heavy banking at T4. Yuyovski around the outside. Yellow flags is already out, as I think Ibrahim Khan's had a bit of a spin in the background, but it is Bonnerhouse leading, Cinchik applying the pressure.
Yeah, Cinchik had a good start in terms of blocking everyone else, ensuring that he's remained second, but with the aggressive stand that he took there on the grid, I think there was absolutely no chance for him to go alongside Bonnerhouse early on. He made it on the exit there, but it wasn't enough to really get a run and attack Bonnerhouse, as he said, on home soil. Behind there, Erhan Yuyovski now got Riedfeld and Siggy, both redline drivers, pushing to close the gap towards Bonnerhouse, and that will not be an easy position to maintain here. For a third for Yuyovski, Pajic down to 6th in front of Yuri Toman and Marco Biancolina. So it seems like there was a bit of action in the background, and unfortunately, you might be right in terms of Ibrahim Khan. I think he dropped down massively on the standings, having a spin in lap 1 while we're on board. Rear wing of Yuyovski looking down at Jeffrey Riedfeld and Kevin Siggy. There's Ibrahim Khan passing one of the Mazda GT cars, which is not Biancalilla. He's still in 8th, so that was his teammate. But yeah, without the front wing, another front wing missing there in the background, pit teams will be busy already.
Yeah, Valeriano and Khan both entering pit lane. Lack of front wing on that. I'm sure we'll catch up with what's happened, as you saw as well. Jeffrey Riedfeld, absolutely spot on. He is attacking. Erhan Yovski was desperately trying to get through on the first lap there, and no way to dive it down the inside through this section, but he was desperate to find some path past the Macedonian. It was not open. He was not able to do so. Kevin Siggy, at least for Team Redline, has got past Marko Pajic on that first lap, did manage to make that move stick has got up inside the top 5. He's still looking for another podium, mind. I'm sure he'll be desperate to keep that streak going. Yuri Toman we were on board with behind that. Manuel Biancalilla, though, got to say, for Musto GD Esports, who are presently at the very bottom of our championship on the team side of things, this is very good. That yellow flag that came out, I'm pretty sure was for Casper Stoltz, who's just dropped down into 24th. But this could be a big day, despite Valeriano's issues. This could be a pretty decent day for Musto GD Esports.
They're sitting on 74 points, 75, that's John Elise Esports Academy, and then 89, Team Fortzilla. So yeah, if Biancalilla placed is right, he will get back onto them and might even have a chance to lift this team out of the spots that drop out of the season. Yovsky still looking solid there in third and not getting as much pressure from Rietveld as I was expecting, but we also don't know if they try to save tyres, at least for now, and then have a look. He's creeping closer sometimes between the sectors here between Yovsky and Rietveld, but it's never enough to really launch and attack, and that gives way to Chinchik and Bono House to blast away in the distance. I mean, look at House, already 1.5 seconds in front of Chinchik.
Yeah, he is starting to clear off. I mean, this was, I did mention it a little bit earlier in the broadcast, the expectations to what to see here. I do actually reckon that we are going to see a fairly calm start to the race. That said, Erhan Yovsky might be getting a little bit dicey, might try and make a move based on the fact that Bunnerhaus is starting to pull away now. And once the leader starts to make that move, everyone else behind feels that it's now or never. And so, you know, there might be that opportunity approaching for the Macedonian, but it's so hard to pass around this circuit anyway. That second half of the race, though, we might see a very, very different dynamic. Let's take a look at what happened with Ibrahim Khan on lap 1, diving it to the inside of Jan Grankvist. It wasn't the wisest move, as diving it down the inside of a gap that was always going to close, but all well and good here. That was a big bit of contact onto the rear end of Alex Siebel, who we're riding on board with. There was no way on this earth that Ibrahim Khan could have dodged that.
No, it was one of the Bulls GR cars there. I think it was Liam DeWall that smashed on the back of Alex Siebel, and then got spun around and created all of this chaos. And by the way, since we already talked about Bornehaus, who could potentially win every single race in this series, I mean, when Zandvoort and we're heading over to the last race in Monza in 2 weeks' time. But what if House wins every single race, but they're still not winning the team championship, which is where all the money is, right? So looking at Rietveld and Siggy, they're doing a great job. Page is behind them, so if they can get around Erniowski and get them between there's a good chance that they might remain in the lead. It was young Granquist, not Liam DeWall, getting onto the back of Alex Siebel. I wonder if Alex Siebel had to back off there a bit to avoid a crash, and that caught Granquist off guard.
Such a tight run going through there down into the hairpin, and I think, yeah, just maybe potentially just caught out. I mean, I wouldn't actually put that much blame on Granquist for that. Obviously, the concertina effect is a big deal, and it's always, you know, you're in control of your own car and you're supposed to slow down enough, but that did happen very, very quickly, and when approaching at those kind of speeds, kind of do feel for him at least a little bit. You can see you're inside the top 13. No position changes with the specific exception of Kevin Siggy. Marco Fiducci up 3 places. Jordi Sveers up 5, as well as with Stefan Liam de Waal up 3. So some decent position gains further down the order. Obviously, we're dodging chaos and carnage on that first lap, being able to find a way through. But no other position changes in the opening 6 minutes of the race. Yet to see an overtake in actual action. And I'm sure we'll see some later on as this race progresses, and especially when we'll be talking about the build-up to the final race of the season. Manuel Biancalilla taking a bit of a gamble here. I am not sure what's happening there, but coming into the pit lane. Oh, it was a jump start. I didn't realise that. I did see someone pop up, but it didn't click as to who it was. It must have been Manuel Biancalilla through the pit lane, and that's tragic because the pit lane speed limit ends now. Oh, that's painful.
Oh, yeah, that was very unfortunate. Such a good qualification and a good start as well. Maybe down to an early one, but still, he managed to hold his position, which was great for him and his team, as Musto really fighting against dropping out of the Formula Pro Series, and now it gets even harder. He's stuck in traffic now, but although I think that's Valeriano, his teammate there. And that got away for Jeffrey Rietveld as he moved around Erniowski, getting the team Redline driver onto a podium spot now, and in a prime position to help Kevin Siggy to also make a move. And all of that is not playing at the hands of Page and his teammate Bono House.
No, but all of that just played into the hands of House as a driver, at least, pulling away to 3 seconds. We're riding on board with Siggy now, and you can see Macedonian of the two-time champion, Erhan Yovsky in GT Pro. Done very well, of course. We know his ability there in Formula Pro, yet to find his feet with a consistent basis. Was looking like he was going to contend for a race win a la proper at Indianapolis. Unfortunately, things just fell apart in those tricky wet weather conditions. Let's take a look at Valeriano on the race start. Of course, we know that Valeriano lost a front wing in all of this. Let's take a look at where it was as coming across. Oh, that was a little bit tight from Liam Duval, getting down the inside of Michele D'Alessandro, I think it is, and making a little bit of contact. Well, it will be Mohammed Patel, rather, as then rising up the hill. Obviously, we've got this chaos that happens up here, and he's the one that makes contact there as Ibrahim Khan's coming around. Oh, that was not pretty.
Yeah, caught twice. Not really lucky there. Oh, he had a great start as well. He got really good off the line and won a few positions in there. We'll have to pay that then in the first chaos. Marcel Chinchik still in second, but now got Jeffrey Riedfeld right behind. And Riedfeld seems to be a ton quicker right now than the Vargas Sim Racing drivers. So I'm not sure if it's down to the setup or what strategy they run on the tyres. But yeah, the Team Redline driver is getting bigger and bigger in the rearview mirror of Chinchik. And it seems like he will soon be in a position to launch an attack there.
Yeah, I mean, for Redline, this could actually be quite handy indeed when it comes to their team's championship. Obviously, House leading the way. They know the score on that one. But if they can move their way up and have another... If they can get a double podium here, that would be so good for the team. Jeffrey Rietveld missing from the podium in the previous race as Jone Simoncic did enough to go and grab that one. And Rietveld had issues in the wet weather conditions. Returning to home soil, it could be a Dutch 1-2. I'm sure that would be popular with some of the home fans here. And this is looking good from Rietveld to be right on the rear end of Marcel Chinchik, coming down to the penultimate corner and then up onto the banking, going through Arie Luyendyk. You can see there, though, going through that penultimate corner, it's just so hard to stick on the rear end. And it looks like Marcel Chinchik may well be able to hang on as just not enough grip on the front end from Jeffrey Rietveld to be able to do anything about it. And the gap, it's painful. The gap is getting bigger and bigger. Shows how important qualifying was because Bottomhouse is gone.
Yeah, it's 4.5 seconds. Sometimes it's even 5 seconds. So currently he's not challenged at all. We'll see if some of that might change depending on the pit stop strategy they are running. But Rietveld is struggling to get into position to take down Chinchik. Well, we get Bottomhouse at least on the screen a few times. I'm not seeing him that often normally when he's leading. Doing a great job, obviously, absolutely tremendous driving skill and consistency, as he said, as Bianco Lila nearly got Daniel Kish car onto his front wing once again. I mean, Valeriano already lost the front wing, so there must be a GT front wing available somewhere on the track if you want to pick it up once again. Daniel Kish now up to 22nd. Bianco Lila from 9th. A great spot to be in if you want to fight against dropping out of the championship. Now down to 23rd. After the drive-throughs, now setting it up the inside of Daniel Kish, not enough there just yet. And I think that's the problem, is like the corner opens up massively on the entry, but with the super late apex and how it shapes up on the exit, it's really hard to make a move stick on the inside.
Yeah, that's so close as the chop back from Danny Kish. Like I say, it's a great corner for me. Like going around the outside is brilliant around there, but like I say, passing down the low side, you carry so much momentum going around the high side that there's no real way to complete a move. You can get side by side briefly, you can get ahead briefly, but realistically speaking, you'll never complete the move properly by diving down the inside there unless you properly send it and perform what in oval racing terminology is a block pass, as yellow flags are back out in sector 1. It's Manuel Biancalilla. Biancalilla is out of the race. What was looking like it was going to be a saving day from Musto GD Esports, I do get the vibe that it's almost confirmation of their departure from Formula Pro almost around early, as things are not looking good for them in their chances. The bottom 2 teams, I will remind you, in the Formula Pro Championship will be dropped out, and they can take part in Formula Challenge, of course, but they'll be dropped out of Formula Pro and then we'll see the new blood coming in, similar to what we have in Formula Challengers, looking around the outside. No way to make it stick from Jeffrey Rietveld. Coming to the cut back. That is absolutely sensational. Running up to the second and third corner, up and over the curb, the outside line. There's contact, and Marcel Cinchic's round. Oh, that was a great save. Haniowski manages to pick it up though, and look at Kevin Siggy come through. A little bit of contact, and Marcel Cinchic might well be able to hold this one coming down to Shivlak. The Macedonian back to the inside of Haniowski. It might well stick for Yayovski. They're going to battle it out. Fantastic to see these two biggest names on rFactor 2 battling it out once more. A bit of a lock-up from Siggy, and Yayovski gains it. Pajic wants his piece.
Yeah, the thing here was, it was all for Kevin Siggy to lose, right? Like, he had a bit of contact already after he tried to get the advantage out of the previous spin. But if he loses the car there next to Erniowski, it hurts Erniowski on the standings, but it hurts Team Red Lane way more if he loses the car there. So you have to step back. Great side-by-side racing. Amazing maneuver by Jeffrey Rietveld. I mean, that was absolutely incredible. Going for the undercut basically on the first turn and then running alongside the entire time, making the move stick. Great racing that we saw here. And besides that little spin from half spin from Marcel Cinchic, all of that ran absolutely well with up to 4 drivers involved. Phenomenal driving.
Yeah, absolutely superb. Brilliant. Like I said, going around the outside slightly of Tyler, but it was almost a fake as he got back down the inside of Cinchic. I mean, brilliant. The contact there, we'd have to take another look at it. I think it was just racing between the two of them and hard stuff indeed. A little bit of contact coming into T4, and the door was open for everyone to come and dive through. Unfortunately for Yayovski, he was a little bit too committed to try and dive down the inside and grab the podium position off of Marcel Cinchic. You can see maybe a little bit frustrated as a penalty goes the way of Danny Kish, unfortunately. By the way, we have got some retirements to this. Let's see if Kevin Siggy can make a move here because he's close. He is very, very close. Dives it back to the inside going into the chicane. There's no way to make that one stick from that far back. You really do need to be alongside. Retirements from the race. We've had 2 rounds of no retirements. Kasper Stoltz, Manuel Biancalilla and Petter Berliak are all out of the race already in the first 15 minutes. Racing around Zandvoort shows how difficult and treacherous this circuit is. So I thought that was a front wing. No, it's just Steven Seagal.
Yeah, Seagal's back again.
Got to say it for Aiden.
For all the action, I mean, he definitely does not want to miss this race, that's for sure, with just the action that we had on the previous lap. But now that we have a retirement of John Lazy Esports Academy and Master GD Esports, these two teams, if they not have a miracle in Monza, are very, very likely to drop out of the championship because Team Wärtsilä are currently looking a bit stronger. Wolves GR Esports, they're still in this as well, although they had 2 spins in it. And Williams Esports, with losing Bielak in this one, and Stefanko not being super quick, I think they will lose position 6 on the standings as well to Red Bull Racing Esports and potentially BS competition, depending on how this will play out in the end. Stefanko currently only in 16th, D'Alessandro in 17th, so BS competition still behind. But they got 2 drivers in, and Williams Esports doesn't. So yeah, it's time now for some of the teams to realise that they're racing for all or nothing. They might not race for the championship, but they race to survive in the series. And I feel like John Lazy Esports and Master GD both just gave up here in Zandvoort already. That is Biancalilla against, is that Ibrahim Khan?
No, Danny Kish, I think.
That was Danny Kish. But how did he turn in there? That was a very weird maneuver there. They're going alongside. That looks all right. And then we see him coming back, and all of a sudden touching the outside of Danny Kish, who's losing his rear wing. Not really great, but I'm surprised by how they connected again on the second attempt there.
Yeah, I'd need to take, I mean, I'm sure you could look at that one ad nauseum, but I'm sure everyone doing the stewarding, Jimmy Allison, will take a look over it with a fine tooth comb to pick that one apart, because it did kind of vibe that Biancalilla was cutting it in a little bit too tight, but obviously around there, it's such a difficult corner to go side by side through. And maybe it was running out a little bit wider than expected for Danny Kish. Unfortunately, that will be a pretty big amount of damage on the car of the Hungarian of Danny Kish, and I think he might well struggle to get this one all the way through to the end of the race. But you're absolutely right. The battle of survival, and we've seen this before in GT Pro, as well. The battle of survival is almost always as interesting as the battle for the championship. See, that angle in slow-mo, again, where slow-mo normally makes everything look a bit more clear as to what it is, I still would argue it doesn't necessarily. There's another big incident from Danny Kish coming down into Shivlak, I think that is. So really not a good day for him. That's why he's back into the pit lane and obviously still has a lot of suspension damage on the car. That one didn't make it that obvious because it did kind of look like Bianca was turning in a little bit too much. Did also look like Danny Kish wasn't really turning in.
Yeah, and he was not aiming for the apex, but obviously we'd need to see that from his perspective if he was overshooting the entry point already, or if he was trying to run Bianca Lila further to the outside. I mean, that's another option. And talking about outside, that was Chinchik running really wide into the corner, nearly letting Ernioski have a sniff up the inside, but both him and Siggy launching it into the chicane, touch on Ernioski, spins him around. He touches Page as well. That's the out for the second Mercedes-AMG Petronas Esports driver, both losing their rear wings, Page and Yoyoski, and that is absolutely crucial to the championship right now because it was Kevin Siggy forcing this, but Page paying the price.
And Chinchik's, that was Chinchik. So they're all coming into the pit lane. Kevin Siggy's down into the pit lane. It's Yuri Toman who hasn't got a front wing in all of that. Of course, we've got no rear wing on Page. We've got no rear wing on Yuyovski. I do get the vibe. You can see quite a lot of damage on Siggy there. His chances of a 5th consecutive podium have come to a close. I do get the vibe. And for Kevin Siggy, I'd need to take another look at that. I think he was in a little bit too hot. I think that might well be something on his shoulder. I don't know. I'm not a race steward, so I won't judge that one. I do get the vibe, though, he was the one that was in a little bit too hot there, although you could argue that Yoski didn't give room. There's so much to look at over that instant. It's really hard to pick apart those three-way fights. For Marcel Chinchik, he feels like he's sort of won the lottery, running up now in 3rd place with no real pressure. Jerne Simoncic and Michi Hoyer, a day that wasn't really looking very good for them when it comes to their chances for 3rd in the championship. Oh, how the tide changes. RHG, issues in that. Varga, issues in that. They are 4th and 6th now. That could be brilliant for Burst.
Yeah, definitely brings them back to the table here to talk about proper points in Zandvoort. And Kevin Siggy, I mean, it is normally not his style diving in there, so I think he was just a bit too quick with getting all the slipstream and then suddenly found himself in a position that was not really working well. I mean, pretty sure that he sees the same in the corner as we do, as in you do not dive there unless you really want to end your race. Yeah, right. And that's kind of what happened, but it all started with Chinchik running too wide and bringing Yoski and Siggy on his rear for that chicane, and that created this huge mess where Page lost out on. And I have to say, wait, where's Page? So Siggy is in 17th.
Page is 19th, Yoski's
19th as well. Yeah, so it doesn't really change much. I would even say that with Page out and Siggy struggling after that, it might save Bonnerhauser's approach to the team championship, because Mercedes-AMG Petronas Esports team should be leading if the race finishes like this.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not 100% sure on obviously never trust the commentator's maths, but no, I think you're right. If things finish exactly as this is, yeah, they lead by I think a point. But obviously, again, don't trust my maths. I certainly don't. I'm not even trying to calculate it at that point. Like I say, it's not the worst case scenario in the fact that Siggy also had to come down pit lane, and Valeriano, by the way, adds to the retirement list. So for Musto GD Esports, I think it's as good as done for them this season. Hopefully they'll come around though for the final race this season at the Italian track of Monza and try and end the season on some form of high, as Michi Hoyer's on the rear end of Risto Capit. Hoyer, who had some drama around here, realistically speaking. It was quite a harsh race for him. Had a bit of an issue around the penultimate corner, and was taken to the sky, shall we say, in the Formula Sim Racing World Championship. But now running in 6th spot, running with a bit of confidence. I'm sure that's sort of slightly in the back of his mind, still having issues like that. But realistically speaking, he is driving absolutely spot on, as we see time and time again from Hoyer. We've got a bit of pressure from Dennis Jordan and Gianmarco Fiducci on his shoulders. Let's take a look once more. In a bit too hot, slightly diagonal in defence from the Macedonian of Yuyovski. There's contact. Pajic did nothing wrong. Toman did nothing wrong. That is pretty rough. I mean, just getting hooked together and coming across the road. Toman was sort of sat there thinking, I can't win there.
Yeah, there was nowhere to go, right? Kevin Siggy over the sausage curb on the inside, that kind of got his car out of it, and Pajic was hoping to run the high line basically on our little oval, race tech there, but it wasn't enough. While Yuri Tolman decided that these signs are way too much for him to take. So DRS for no one, he took it out. If he now also takes the second one out, the DRS zone just disappears. That's how it goes, by the way. There are no signs, and it does not work anymore. But yeah, everyone just caught up in this situation of Siggy and Yayovsky. And unfortunately, many drivers had to pay a price that were not even involved in the fight at all.
Yeah, you just saw. I mean, like I say, whether you regard it as Siggy's fault or not, I mean, he was a little bit hot on the brakes there, a bit of a lock up as well. You could tell him that, and the usage of the sausage curb as well, which then threw him over right into the side of Erhan Yayovsky. And I think, like I say, that one's going to take a little bit of looking over. And thankfully, I'm not experienced enough to do so. So I'm going to take a step back on that one and focus on the action that we have at hand. As Butterhouse leading from Jeffrey Rietveld, and the gap which has been coming down steadily, not too much, but the bit by bit here and there, a tenth or two, and it's down to around about 4 seconds. It was 5 and a bit not too long ago in the race. Obviously, when pit stop sequence come in, if Rietveld goes for a bit of an undercut, things could work out in favour of the Dutchman, looking for another race win. A race win. It wouldn't be another one. It would be a first one for Rietveld on home soil. Marcel Cinčić behind that, with Jone Simoncic and Risto Capit under an awful lot of pressure from this train that consists of Capit himself, Hoyer, Dennis Jordan, and Gianmarco Verducci. Will say great stuff from Jordi Zviers as well, to be up inside the top 10, just dodging all the carnage, and sat up at the moment inside the top 10 in 9th position. 2 Red Bull Racing esports drivers as well in there, with Dennis Jordan in 7th and Alex Siebel rounding out the top 10. Said that Dennis Jordan wanted to just aim for a decent top 10 finish today, and I'm sure obviously what quite a lot of drivers just want. Obviously, you want to aim for consistency, and when you're coming into the team's championship and such, consistency is what pays the bills, so to speak, when it comes to the prize money at the end of the season.
Yeah, definitely, and it pays off big for Butterhouse, as we see every single time. Even with all the shenanigans that happen now, I have to say, it's kind of cool to see 3 different teams on the podium so far. I mean, that's Mercedes AMG Petronas eSports, Team Redline, and Varga Sim Racing. With Jone Simoncic, he currently is a bit far off of Cinčić, but we still got 36 minutes to go, so everything can still happen. And as you said, Burst Esports all of a sudden find themselves in a strong race again, just because everyone else is going mad.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those things where it's like I wouldn't normally expect it, where you've had a poor day in qualifying, or an average day, shall we say. They were down in the top 10, and around a circuit like this where it is so hard to pass. I mean, Simoncic isn't necessarily out of podium contention. I'd say catching Marcel Cinčić in that gap is actually going to be pretty hard, because Cinčic's pretty fast. Now he doesn't have any pressure. He's just able to lap by himself. But still, Simoncic could get onto the podium. Risto Capit, though, is definitely under pressure to try and make it 2 Burst Esports cars inside the top 5, because Hoyer is sat there. He is waiting to pass the R8G driver. And the Estonian, I mean, he is probably one of the calmest people that you would see in most situations. I mean, I've seen him hold a finger up to the screen, but outside of that, normally very, very calm as a driver. And at this point, probably sat there down having a little bit of a nice, calm Monday night drive, looking in his mirrors thinking, those are some pretty cars behind me. Anyway, let me just continue doing my laps, shall we? He's very, very calm individual. He is, as nearest makes no difference, to Kimi Räikkönen of sim racing, a proper Iceman.
Definitely doing well. We get another replay.
Oh, brilliant.
Even the seagull. All right, there we go. Oh, look, is that the real question for all of our sim races is obviously, are aerodynamics properly simulated here and calculated and all of that? Does he really take the wind into account? And obviously the cars blasting by, that changes the wind as well. So I want to know more about that. Maybe for Monza we should bring Marcel Offermans in for an interview to ask him all these burning questions.
Yeah, what is the drag coefficient of a seagull? Tell me now. Answers on a postcard. Richie Hoyer, though, he doesn't care about the seagulls. Though I will say the shadow sometimes across the track might be a little bit, not distracting, but it'd be like, oh, what's that? Oh, it's a seagull. Fine. I always used to have that with the helicopter at Bathurst that kept flying over. I thought, what is that? Oh, right, it's the helicopter. Don't worry. The shadow does freak you out every now and then, but obviously at this kind of speed, you're not focused on the random shadow that appears here and there. You're focused on that car ahead. You're focused on making a move. You're focused on the strategy. We're nearly halfway through this race, and strategy for some of these drivers, they may want to pit early to get themselves out of this battle and try and move the way up. Obviously, that entails its own enormous risk. And if you pit, yes, you'll come out on fresh tyres. Yes, you'll come out potentially faster than this entire group that you're with because of that grip differential. Tyre wear is quite high around here. But in all likelihood, you need someone on the wall to be telling you where the traffic is, because in all likelihood, you're coming out in some traffic and that will end your race there and then.
Yeah, it's not an easy one, that's for sure, and you will need to get a bit of overview of what's happening on the rest of the track to really make it work for you. And let's see if everyone gets that done and everyone is ready for the challenge, while Mohammed Patel is coming 14th, looking at Granquist and D'Alessandro, so his teammate there. Pretty close here, and a lot of DNFs by now on this race. I mean, we see it down there. Not a great day for Musto GD, nor for John Elisa Esports Academy, so kind of the two teams that had already a very bad season. They continue here in Zandvoort, while Michi Hoyer would love to get closer to Riz to cap it.
Oh, there we go, cap it in.
Yep, he pulls into the pits, and we're roughly in the window by now, I would say, so that seems absolutely fine.
Yeah, indeed. As whilst that's happened, instantly diving down the inside of Jordi's Veers, Alex Siebel just down at turn 1. Alex Siebel has gained that position, has just bitten as that yellow flag came out. I'm not 100% sure as to who that was on the way. I think it might have been more Danny Kish trying to get out of the way of some of the leaders coming through. Certainly lap traffic, just trying to behave themselves very nicely around here, but it was very swift for Siebel to pass, and it's great for the Red Bull Racing Esports driver. You're saying that Lacey Esports are struggling, but I mean, Jordi's Veers is inside the top 10 still, so in that sense there is still some form of positive. Nuno Pinto's been in and out of pit lane as well for Team Fordzilla, as things are starting to look a little bit better for them, trying to escape the clutches of relegation as well at the bottom end of the championship. They are just outside of it at the moment, and a round like this with Fiducci in 7th could be an awful lot, but let's take another look at that move from Siebel, just straight to the inside, and Jordi's Veers, given plenty of room, did not really fight that, the Dutchman, who was here, by the way, for the Dutch Grand Prix, if I remember correctly.
Oh, was there? Actually, I'm
believe so.
Sure.
Probably.
I mean,
it
makes sense.
I know Yuri Kasdorp definitely was, who's not racing in this, but still. Red Bull Racing Esports.
I still want to bring it up, just because.
Yeah, absolutely. Why not? Got to keep in their good books, you see, by bringing them up in positive lights without just being like, wow, that was a bit rubbish, wasn't it?
You're doing very well on that front.
Let's speak of positivity of Bonner House, who's continuing to dominate, by the way. It's now going back out 4 seconds. I wonder how long they're going to leave it to pit, because surely with Bonner House in this kind of position, though, he is just going to leave it out lap after lap after lap and comfortably hang on. At least that's what the book would suggest, the form book right now. Whether that actually happens, whether that turns into reality, is a lesser known feature. But for House, I wouldn't be surprised to see him just hang out for another even 5-10 minutes. Yeah,
it kind of is. Interesting to see. It's like 29 minutes still to go, and we see Chinchik turn in, and we have Rissa Capit being in already. Ibrahim Khan, but I think that's just second or third. There's another car down in, I think that was 7th or 8th.
Fiducci
just went in. Yeah, Fiducci for Fordzilla. So it will be very interesting going forward now. That is Valeriano and...
Who's going to pull off?
But did he just lose the rear end there?
I think he might well have done. I think I think he lost the rear end and then decided to call it a day. Did Valeriano from Musto GD Esports.
Yeah, I think the car just started twitching. Obviously not easy, a lot of power on nearly no weight at all. High refs, so stuff like that can happen even in the Pro Series. Unfortunately, yeah, that was the end from Mr. GD. Michi Hoyer, with Dennis Jordan right behind. There's Burst Esports versus Red Bull Racing Esports. Let's see. Dennis Jordan can close that gap, even with the pit stop still coming up. Obviously love to be right behind the German. And now we've got 2 Burst, 2 Red Bull. We're back to teams sticking together, kind of.
Well, I mean, if you really want to go down that route, then technically, if Bonnehaus is a red line driver, then sort of got 2x2x2.
You
But
always go that way.
Yeah, I know.
Let's not go that way.
It's new.
Because they're not on the same team listed here. Don't confuse people.
It's the political way of sim racing, which is very confusing, by the way.
Yeah, but we're not going to Formula One and go through every single driver. But that's a Ferrari. It's also Ferrari Academy, and then everything gets very confusing, and all of a sudden everyone's Red Bull.
I like the confusion of sim racing in that sense. It's just, it adds that level of dynamic of just not knowing anything that you say could be true if you just say it enough times. Michi Hoyer, though, as you say, into the pit lane, and Siebel as well, Mohammed Patel. These are this is one thing about this pit lane. It is so painful because you'd expect you exit the main pit lane sequence and you think, right, off we go, release that button, but you can't. You've got to wait until you've come all the way around the exit of that slip mode, and then you get to release it. Race leader and championship leader, Bonnehaus into the pit lane. Mohammed Patel, penalty as well. So he's got a penalty for speeding in pit lane. That'll be very, very poor for him and his chances. He's going to drop right down the order. Let's just hope that these two haven't picked one up. Bonnehaus in, out, and ready to go.
Yeah, he should be quick enough. Yeah, big gap already. Refell's in as well, and so is Simoncic, right? So not much for him to lose. And it's a painfully long exit, but it should be totally fine for Bonnehaus. It's not as painfully yet as as the endurance pit box at Spa.
Yeah.
Takes ages. I managed in real life to actually get off the limiter early. So came around the source, thought that's it. And went for it, and I had to realize that I still had to go through the second part of the pit stalls. Let's hope no one else did it. That's Mohammed Patel. And, bit hot-headed into the 60 zone here.
He released the brake too early.
Yeah, 68. Coming across the line. I think it was better than the other penalties that we saw, especially in Silverstone. But still, it was over 60 coming into the pits, and that's another penalty.
Yeah, Rieveld's one was pretty much as near as makes a difference a slam dunk penalty, in the sense that he came into pit lane and then missed his button. And so just sped up again and then went, I've got to slow down. And then it was like, yeah, you've already got a penalty, mate. So Bonnehaus, by the way, at the race lead is right on the rear end of Dennis Jordan. It's actually costing him time. Jeffrey Rietveld had a slow pit stop there as we're watching the battle between Risto Capit and Michi Hoyer. Risto Capit under pressure from Hoyer. Hoyer around the outside. If that one's going to stick, that would have been a superb move, but not quite yet. A bit of a huff and a bit of a shout as well from Hoyer. He knew how important it was to get that move done as Dennis Jordan, Martin Stefanko dive their way down pit lane. This is frustrating for Michi Hoyer, and you could read that one on his face. Said that Risto Capit is one of the calmest people you'll come across. Hoyer seemingly less so, seemingly getting very much involved in this battle, more from an emotional point of view, and that's going to be frustrating and stressful as Dennis Jordan's going to come out in 5th place ahead of all of that. Yeah,
this will even add to the fight that Michi Hoyer has, and to set Risto Capit being the calm guy and Michi Hoyer being a bit heated up. I absolutely love that on Hoyer. He's a great driver and he can pull some amazing moves. So let's see what he can do there. Then it's Jordan in 5th, in front of Capit and Hoyer, and then Fiducci. We're back to normal at the front. House, Rietveld, Chinchik, the top 3, and then Simoncic in 4th. Michi Hoyer still right behind, and if Capit is going at this pace and Hoyer once again nearly losing the race, now launching up the inside on the drive up RAG Esports, seems like he will get through on the corner where we said it's kind of hard to launch it up the inside. The connect once again that brings Fiducci in. I'm absolutely sure that he's right behind Risto Capit right now, but this should be it for Michi Hoyer. Great maneuver there, really got super close, has a wiggling rear a tiny bit, hold on to it and make the move done.
Yeah, that was bold from Michi Hoyer to fire that one in there. He was angry a couple of laps ago, and that seemed a little bit more convinced. He'll be able to sigh a breath of relief as Fiducci will be closing in on the Estonian as well. We'll just say, if you look on your leaderboard now, look at that 21st place, a retirement going the way of Erhan Yayovsky. I wonder if the damage was too much or if there's been another incident from him, and a bit of a shame to see that, as also switching to position, Martin Stefanko gets himself inside the top 10. Yildiz Veers drops down to 11th spot as our focus remains on Michi Hoyer. The gap for the race lead, though, with 24 minutes left to go. Bonnehaus looking to secure victory on home soil, looking to secure his 5th consecutive victory here in the Formula Pro Championship, powered by Traction.gg. Marcel Chinchik on for a podium, and you've got to say that is stunning work from the driver. After, yes, issues in the early stages, but to be fair, from what we saw, don't really feel he put a foot wrong realistically at any point majorly, and that incident that happened was certainly nothing to do with him, and has just been able to secure himself third at the moment. Simacic is there though.
Yeah, Simacic is right behind, and right behind might be a bit over the top for now, but with still 23 minutes to go, there might be a chance for the first esports driver to get back and look at a podium spot at least, while Alex Siebel looks at Fiducci and Risto Capit, with Michi Hoyer being able to spread his wings and get away from the fighting group, and basically the same pace that he gets away, Alex Siebel gets onto this, and Risto Capit seems to be not up to the pace to hold the position he's currently in.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like I say, it's one of those difficult circuits to overtake at, but obviously with the differing tyre strategies, with Siebel now closing in on this battle post pit stop, he's carrying momentum at the moment. He's arrived at this battle only recently, and knowing the driver that Siebel is, he'll know that he needs to. It's essentially now or never. As he looks down the inside of Fiducci, looks to try and make a move, and there's no way past the Italian at the moment, and Siebel's just going to hold station. And when you have a battle like this, it's that closing speed that makes the difference. Once you're here, and if you're sat here for a lap or two, if you can't make the move stick, you just start going at the same speed as whatever the pack is. And right now for Siebel, I think those couple of opportunities that he had potentially might have squandered his chances of moving up. He'll have to work a little bit harder as Fiducci. Here we go on Risto Capit. Goes to the outside, coming down to Tarzan. Going to absolutely fire it in, up the banking, trying to make the move stick around the outside of the Estonian, and Risto Capit, sterling defence, hangs on.
Yeah, but it's still a great move from Fiducci, and I love the confidence he has to send it up the outside, but that brings Alex Siebel a lot closer now, and all of a sudden, Fiducci has to defend his position rather than gaining another one against Risto Capit. Gap increased a tiny bit. That is Michi Hoyer versus Risto Capit previously. Capit played along nicely, by the way. Great respect between the two drivers. I mean, they touched a bit on the outside, but I think that was just the mistake, and both pushing really, really hard. But in the corner, that was great side-by-side racing action.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. Again, such a bold dive. Absolutely superb. By the way, we've got some important research here coming in from James Kirk, of course, of Traction.gg. We'll give them obviously another bit of a shout out. Why not? As we'll see Jan Grankvist trying to send that one down the inside. Research would suggest, important data, that simulation results would suggest the optimum frequency of a seagull with its flaps is 3 seconds per flap, which is pretty insane. But just one flap every 3 seconds is optimum.
Yeah, is that one flap every second, every 3 seconds, or does that mean a flap takes 3 seconds?
So it says one flap every 3 seconds, not 3 flaps a second, which is what I initially thought it was. But no.
Is it then like flap and then cruise control and then flap again after 3 seconds, or is it flap 3 seconds and then go right into the next flap? That's the big question.
No, I think it has to be flap and then wait. Like a big one, a big. I can't really describe it. I mean, I've got it on camera. There you go. You can see it. Whoa, like a big one. And then, carrying on. Anyway, we are so far off topic.
I love that we both went for doing it and no one saw it on the camera. I'm absolutely happy that we didn't have that on screen. But
Ruben saw
important questions here in the Zandvoort race. Let that not distract you from the race action. If you just turn in, it's not because it's a boring race. It's a very entertaining race, and in the few seconds we are able to breathe, we come up with that stuff that we just talked about. While Michael D'Alessandro has a nice visit from 2 of the Volts GR cars, but he made it through. Look at that, beautiful. Faked on the outside, blocked on the inside, then crosses down, but there is someone got really slow there. Was it a lapped car maybe?
No, that was for position between Leah Deval and Jan Grankvist. Just Liam de Waal getting out of the way. By the way, Kevin Siggy, if there was a lap car that you've seen, it would be Kevin Siggy going a lap down in this race, as Yuri Toma's also back in the race. Let's take another look at this. So Liam de Waal's just in a little bit too hot whilst defending and swooping back to the inside, the Alessandro, and then as soon as, you can see that from the throttle trace. This is kind of what I thought was going to happen. As soon as Grankvist got back down the inside, Liam de Waal did not fight that one, doing a little bit of a team game there. They're running 13th and 14th, so for all my criticisms of them a bit earlier with how the first round of the season went well and the rest of them kind of fallen apart, it's looking not great, but a little bit better. Certainly for Grankvist as well, who's really taking to this championship quite well, is building on every single round that he's doing, and right now looking very, very good as Joris Veers is dropping a couple of positions down the order.
Yeah, well, should remain in the Pro Series looking at the results so far, especially with Musto and John Alesi struggling today as well, even though Joris Veers currently is in 12th. So that's not all the way down the order. But his teammate, unfortunately, already out of the race. That is Joris Veers against Grankvist. Grankvist around the outside. That might work. He has a ton of speed there, but not enough exit to make it work. And we saw it there. Joris Veers, he was slower by a bigger margin, I would say. And still he couldn't make it around the outside. So you basically have to go alongside and then try to dive up the apex once again. When you saw the other driver defending up the inside. The John Alesi livery, by the way, it's also very good looking. Well, I like it. I like the colours. Kind of makes sense, right? Because it's basically Butler Pal Motorsport colours. And that was...
Yeah. Right, gotcha. I'm sure Jordi will love that.
Yeah, he will. He will hear... he will love hearing me saying that it's basically straight up copy of the Butler Pal Motorsport livery.
Mostly his one, because his one has red. It's one thing that I do like is using a driver colour, because Jordi's driver colour on this is red and Casper Stortz's is better. And being that yellow.
Better.
I much prefer the bright yellow and or green.
Really?
By the way, fast lap of the race. Once again, it slips through the fingers of Bonnerhouse as his teammate Pajic sets the fastest lap of the race down the order. Of course, not a good day for Pajic, and this one though, not through want of trying, as it's bad luck for him. Although Mercedes will be outscoring Redline by quite a bit. Obviously, running first at the moment, ahead of Jeffrey Rietveld, so you've got your points for that. But also, Pajic is doing his work, is doing his bit, and is ahead of Kevin Siggy right now. Yes, by a single position, but that is a point.
Yeah, like I said, even it was for Kevin Siggy to lose all of that with that maneuver. He was already battling previously to ensure that he will not spin around and is not losing out on this race, but that maneuver into exactly this chicane we're just going into, that cost Redline the lead of the championship and maybe even the entire championship.
Yeah, I mean, that one we'll definitely have to take a look on, because next round is going to be absolutely phenomenal. In 2 weeks' time, we go racing at the legendary Temple of Speed at Monza, as Stefanko's now part of this battle and carrying his momentum. He might try and freight train his way past Alex Siebel, Gianmarco Fiducci and Risto Capit. Looking like a great drive at the moment from Stefanko after not an ideal qualifying. By the way, battle further back as well as Joris Veers and Jan Grankvist once again will go side by side, and once again it was a bit of a dodgy exit from I'll just catch this on my other screen from Joris Veers, and Jan Grankvist still not able to make that move stick, so no differential there, but clearly an awful lot of pressure on the Dutchman's shoulders. He wants a top 12, which would have been a fairly decent result for him in this season, in a car that he's struggled to gather the most out of. That car coming through, by the way, directly behind is not Bonnerhouse. That is Pajic trying to unlap himself on this group. So suggestions would be that Pajic really does have to take his time here and will potentially be told not to rush his way through this group, because there's not much more he can gain.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, he does not really want to get involved in this one, right? All of these drivers are still fighting for valuable points, and they will all need them, especially Williams, if they want to retain their sixth position in the standings. But Pajic is quicker. You see that here is right behind Stefanko. He looked up the inside, didn't know went for it. Stefanko a bit later on the brakes than Alex Siebel there. But it's a great group that we have now for the last 40 minutes. So absolutely love another fighting group. And the different entries that we see into this banking each and every time. Stefanko's struggling a bit. Still, Pajic does not get involved. I think Pajic could be through by now, at least in Stefanko, but he's trying to not do it until Stefanko is far away, so he won't have a shot at Siebel anymore.
Yeah, it's very, very tricky to try and go for a move. I mean, we've seen this before earlier in the race, where you try and go for a move around here, and if it doesn't pay off, you're going backwards. It's so hard to return to the rhythm around a circuit like this, and you will end up just losing position after position if you just don't do it right. So if you're not careful, you'll be at the back of this train, and so Fiduci's just being very, very patient with where this move is. You've also got to remember with Fiduci right now, if he was to finish in this position, he's pretty happy with that. I mean, obviously he'd want 7th, but realistically speaking, it'd be a PB result of the season for him, I think for Capit and for Siebel as well. I'm not sure about. I think Stefanko's had a little bit higher this season. I can go and double check that one, but for them though, realistically speaking, this could be a pretty decent one. Obviously, Fiduci's best result was 12th place last round out. Stefanko has had a P6 when it was at the at Silverstone. Alex Siebel's only had a single top 10 this season, and Risto Capit also only a single top 10. So for all these drivers, with the exception of Stefanko, this is a PB result, which, to be fair, considering the calibre of this group, is not something I would have expected.
Yeah, definitely. And it's once again, we have so many big names in. All of these drivers are quick. Don't get us wrong if we say that a few drivers having bad seasons, but it's the best of the best. And obviously someone has to be slower than the other, right? That's the nature of racing. And that's basically what we see here. So it's a great group, and I love that we have them here. And we can also get to listen to some of the engine sound, it seems.
What an engine sound it is.
Stefanko, by the way, back now onto the rear wing of Alex Siebel, with Page still being very patient back there, just waiting for his chance. But it's great to see that he definitely does not create distraction in this fight that's still going on here for a top 10 position. And just great to see Williams against Red Bull, right? I mean, that's top-notch racing.
Yeah, it is absolutely fantastic to see them fighting this hard. Again, there's just, when you don't make a mistake, you can't really get through, and you only, same thing with quite a lot of things in sports, is that to make up a position like this, you have to be ready to lose a position. And it's the same thing with championships and stuff. If you want to win a championship, you've got to be ready to lose one as well. And it's kind of like that juxtaposition of going on the attack and putting everything on the line. And look at Stefanko right now on the rear end of Siebel, looking to the inside, not being bold enough to send that dive in there, and all things seeming okay and remaining in position for this battle. 11 minutes left to go. Opportunities being left by the wayside, and right now there's no real way through in this battle. All of the top 5 are fairly separated, with House, Rietveld, Chinchik, Simic and Jordan all just running around by themselves. Mickey Hoyer also in a bit of a world of his own. And then you've got this tantalising battle inside the top 10. You see there on positions gained, the amount of progress that Stefanko and Michele D'Alessandro have made. Jordi's Viers as well up 8 positions, and Leon Deval up 5, Jan Grankvist up 2. Pinto up 7, and plenty of retirement well to speak, which has assisted them to rise up the order on such a difficult afternoon here in the penultimate round of the season.
Yeah, it's definitely a worthy round to watch, and so far all the races have been very, very entertaining in this new series, and it's great to see another Pro Series. We got the GT Pro Series obviously in Season 4 by now, while Formula is in its first. And I would say it definitely proves that it has to stick around and give us even more racing. Every single time we go down to turn 1, Stefanko is quickly showing himself in the rearview mirror of Alex Siebel. But so far, he could not make a move. Page now step further back and tries to not put any pressure onto Stefanko, so ensuring that he can fully concentrate on the Red Bull car right in front. Fiduci doing a great job there, just sticking between these drivers, right behind Risto Capit. Capit's not getting away, nor does Alex Siebel really get a launch onto Fiduci. So I would say Team Fordzilla really getting into this championship right now and proving themselves worthy of being in.
Yeah, they really are. I mean, a bit of a struggle for them to learn. They're not normally, they're a team that's still fairly new in all things considered, but we'll focus on that in a moment. Stefanko, a little bit indecisive. They're trying to get back to the inside of Alex Siebel, and there just wasn't that room. Siebel was covering that one off. But you could see that Stefanko was ready for a big dive there. He was ready to absolutely send that one down, and unfortunately the opportunity just wasn't quite there. Yellow flag was out in sector 1. Not sure who that was for, and another issue for someone either way as they've dropped down the order. It definitely wasn't for anyone in our top running positions, as by the way, Kevin Siggy, you can see there on our list, is 20th and last on the leaderboard. So what a day to forget for the Austria Slovenia. He came into this with 4 consecutive podiums, and you can argue maybe he did it to himself, but either way, regardless, way down the order. Let's take a look at the replay as to what happened with this attempted move from Stefanko. You can see there a bit of a wiggle, just trying to find that room, and was I think maybe eyeing up a dive back around the outside.
I think he even considered going over the grass real quick, doing a Kevin Estra move. And then decided against it. It was like, oh, there's the chicane. You really have to step on the brakes hard. It probably won't work. So good on him not doing it. Otherwise, a top 10 finish would probably not be possible for him anymore. But Fiducci lost a bit of time as we see Siebel and Stefanko now being a lot closer. Beautiful shot from his halo view onto Alex Siebel as well, as this fight is continuing. Obviously, nothing changed at the front. Bonnehouse still leading this race right from the get-go. For Rietveld in second, Marcel Cincic in third, so that's the podium. And then another 5 seconds off, that's Simoncic. Although Simoncic actually let the gap melt in the last laps. He's coming a bit closer, but not in such big steps that I would expect him to really challenge Cincic for a podium spot here in Zandvoort.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I say Cincic, I would have actually said that this wasn't going to be the case, because I thought Cincic was struggling over the early stages of the race and was definitely being brought in. I mean, look at the amount of pressure he was under over the early stages. Look at the gap that was built up between him and Bonnehouse over the first few laps of the race. And so I would have thought with Simoncic being behind in clean air that gap was going to tumble down, and that Simoncic was, odds on at least to be in the battle for the podium positions. It hasn't happened. It hasn't come to fruition, and Marcel Cincic's lap work and consistency has showed that second in qualifying. Oh, it was a mistake from Fiducci, speaking of which, and here comes Siebel around the outside through the hairpin. He's got the inside into the penultimate corner, which are giving the inside all the way through Ari Leyendijk. But look at that from Fiducci, who covers it off. Siebel was nearly under a pressure from Martin Stefanko as well. DRS open round the banking. Stefanko wasn't able to get through. Siebel wasn't able to get through. And somehow, after all that drama, we all calmed down and everyone's still in the same position.
Yeah, nothing really happens. Kind of static around this as they lap Kevin Siggy now. He got out of the way quite quickly. Fiducci covered up the inside, and there's Alex Siebel just going around the outside. There must have been a mistake by the Team Fortuna driver, and all of a sudden he only sees the back of the car that he always had in the rearview mirror, and Stefanko now knows, hey, Alex Siebel, I could take him down, but he's running away if I'm not getting around Fiducci quick enough.
Yeah, like I say, they're all feeling the same kind of thing, that they can all go fast, and this is always how it goes in a battle where it's so tight, and you're always thinking, I'm faster than the next guy, I'm faster than the next guy, but everyone is. It's just the nature of dirty air, and that such playing into its factor, even though it's in a fairly minimal state in some degrees. Stefanko, though, I would argue all the group, again, so easy to say, has been one of the faster of this grouping, but Siebel's pace when he caught up to the rear end of the group, he's right on it. Let's see another look at mistake from Fiducci. Just a little bit of a lock-up on the front right. Here comes Alex Siebel around the outside. Absolutely superb to get along there. Just about space given on the exit there, rather than just pushing someone off. I've seen that before in motorsport and in sim racing time and time again. I do get very bored of seeing it, but that was superb. Another mistake, though, from the Italian, and there was Siebel through, just all the way around the outside. Absolutely spot on from the German when it comes to making a move. But it has to be through a mistake. And that's the thing, is around here, if you don't make a mistake, which is all you have to be telling yourself in these battles, just go a little bit slower maybe. Just don't make a mistake. The mistake is what opens the door for the move. Outside of that, there's no way to make the pass.
Yeah, true. It's very rare here to make a move without any mistake previously, and Fiducci just lost the rear there, didn't have the chance to get a proper entry into the banking, and then totally lost out to Alex Siebel, who saw his chance there and wrecked it. Absolutely perfect. And going around the outside, made the move stick. That worked up, and is now up to 8th, sending Viducci down to 9th. And now Stefanko has a new opponent to overcome, and he was struggling with Siebel previously on many, many laps. And see if we can have a go at the Team Futsal driver. DRS open for both. Stefanko obviously in the slipstream. That should help a bit, but it's not massive. You see that? There's nearly no change in it. Stefanko with the wiggling rear, trying to at least show himself outside. I wonder if Stefanko is only pulling in to see his braking point each and every time, because I think there was no... Besides trying to avoid contact, probably, right? Because there was no real reason to risk that here with open DRS to make a move like that and risk the car.
Yeah, I think a part of it comes down to trying to distract. There you go. So you look, diving to the inside. It was more just trying to distract and trying to catch out Gianmarco Viducci. Maybe just get him to make another mistake. He's already made a couple against Siebel. But also, importantly, it's trying to get Viducci off of the back of Siebel, because if he's not within range of DRS, whilst DRS doesn't make the most enormous impact, it is still an impact, which when you were as close as Stefanko was there, if Viducci didn't have DRS on that run down into turn 1, you'd have to say he potentially would have been a sitting duck, and there would have been a pass finally for Stefanko. He seems pretty much odds on for a potential move here, as Siebel's got by Risto Capit. Siebel's got himself up in a 7th position, did not see where that's happened, and they're going to continue to battle it out as Risto Capit's got through at Ari Leyendijk into the DRS Alex Siebel has got. He's going to be close at T1, just a couple of laps left to go, and the German battling with the Estonian, and Risto Capit's well out wide. Are there issues for Risto Capit? There are issues for Risto Capit, as this is a terrible day for R8G Esports, as now he's dropped down to 10th.
Yeah, all of a sudden looked like he didn't have any power at all. Now it's good again, so I would say it's not the fuel, which would be another factor that can kick in by now, not having enough fuel, but his pace seems to be up again. But that was incredible. He just ran a bit wide, lost a lot of time, then all of a sudden the train came through and he couldn't really get back onto the ideal line. And that cost him a ton of positions as he's dropped down, as he set down to 10th. And Stefanko, while Traction.gg asked in the chat, will Stefanko get P9? It was probably aimed at if Stefanko makes his way around Viducci. He didn't have to, because Risto Capit gifted him that position.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'd say probably the easiest pass he'll do all day. By the way, when I said it was 2 laps ago, very much mistaken as to the position that Bonnerhaus has got on the racetrack. He'll be coming round to start what I believe will be his final lap of the race, based on the fact that he's coming through the final sector now. So these will all have a couple of laps more to battle this one out. So yeah, I think you're absolutely right as to whether Stefanko will make that move on Viducci, which I think he will. I think there is a fundamental issue.
There must be something wrong. Yeah, look at the
whether
speed
it's his
difference.
pedal or whatever. I don't know what it is, but there's something wrong. It is fuel. I think it's fuel. It's got to be. Oh,
he's still accelerating.
Fuel doesn't really make sense because he would have shifted up more.
Yeah, look at that. He's going through it all fine.
Maybe
now
he's trying to get DRS.
He's flat out 310, 320. Then he ran a bit wide. Yeah, he nearly lost the rear there. He was afraid of it. Catch the car, lost
He's
position.
still in 7th.
Oh, he was the wrong gear.
He was still in 7th. And maybe his downshift's not working or something, or temporarily not working, because he was still in 7th off of T1. Look, watch, he's still in 7th into T1. That's why he missed the apex. I kind of get the vibe he was actually trying to drop back behind Siebel to try and get DRS, even though that's not really a thing in these kind of cars. I'm a little bit baffled there. Either way, definitely couldn't switch for T1, and explains why he was way off down at turn 1. But let's take a look here as Stefanko, once again, very, very close. Penultimate lap of the race for him. Looking to the inside, no way through. We'll have to jump up to the race leader, though, as coming through the final corner, Bonnerhaus. He is going to do it. It is his 5th consecutive victory, and Haus takes it on home soil across the line for Mercedes-AMG Petronas Esports, and that is it. Basically for the Drivers' Championship. On teams, though, it is a big day for Mercedes. Issues for Siggy, issues for Pajic, but not quite enough with Haus's win, with Pajic just about outscoring Siggy. This will be the championship lead heading into one final round in 2 weeks' time. Rietveld onto the podium. Marcel Chinchik will cross the line from the front row of the grid for a very, very well-deserved 3rd place. Jerne Simoncic and Dennis Jordan round out the top 5, and this battle will continue.
Yeah, Stefanko is still trying to make a move. I mean, he's desperately looking for an overtaking move on stream, it seems. Like, he wants to show off, and he was so close each and every time, but that is the last corner to go on the start-finish straight. He got DRS, but Fiducci got DRS as well. Even if I thought Fiducci is now pulling off and actually letting him pass, but he doesn't. So Stefanko stays in 9th, Risto Capit in 10th, and as you said, this race will give the lead to Mercedes-AMG Petronas Esports team over Team Redline, and that means Monza will be, make or break the championship between Team Redline and Mercedes-AMG Petronas. Very, very exciting season that we see, and Monza will probably top that easily. It's a great racetrack for a decider here in these open wheelers.
Yeah, absolutely spot on. And with this, we did see them cruising there for Jerne Simoncic and Michi Hoyer. They've now moved up into 3rd position in the championship. We'll grab those in a few moments. Let's take a look at the race results. 5th consecutive win in the season, 5 from 5 for Bonner House, with Jeffrey Rietveld and Marcel Chinchik rounding out the podium. Jerne Simoncic and Dennis Jordan up the order. Best result of the season from Dennis Jordan, with Michi Hoyer in 6th. Alex Ebel as well up there in 7th, and Gianmarco Fiducci inside the top 10 for the first time this season. Martin Stefanko and Risto Capit rounding out the top 10. Behind that would be Michele D'Alessandro and Jordi Veers. Great result for Jordi Veers, all things considered, coming into this, not really aiming for too much, and much better for the Jean Lacey Esports Academy driver. Wolves GR Esports looking a little bit better than they had done for the previous few rounds, as they take some decent points in 13th and 14th position, with Mohammed Patel in 15th. Yuri Toman are quite a ways behind his teammate in 16th position with Nuno Pinto. And then the big drama, Marco Pajic in 18th position, Kevin Siggy in 20th. Drama between them, Ibrahim Khan in 19th position, and behind that, an awful lot of retirements, including some big names, the likes of Erhan Yayovsky and plenty of other big ones down there indeed. By the way, just getting a note as to what's happened to Risto Capit. I'm being told it was a brake pedal issue, a real life one, not in sim or anything like that. No, it was just a genuine issue with his brake pedal. I don't know how much truth there is to that, but that's what we've been told anyway.
Yeah, I wonder, because the input we saw from his brake pedal, at least to me, looked good.
It was the shifter that was the issue.
It was the shifting that was missing. Whatever it was an issue, and it sent Risto Capit down the order into 10th, which is unfortunate, right? He wanted to make up all the points, but due to Erniowski not having a great day and the race he had Zandvoort. But no matter what happened, we saw a ton of action on track once again. We still have an open teams championship, no matter what Bonner House does on the driver's side, which is great, giving him a driver's title. He absolutely deserves it with the show he puts on, but it's great to see that we head over to Monza and still don't know who's actually becoming the team champion, which is where the big prize money is on. So the fight for the crown in the first ever Alpha 2 Formula Pro Series powered by Traction.gg is still on, and that's the important bit when we head over to the finisher in Monza.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about Pajic needs to step up his game. Today, I will argue. I think he did. I mean, he was right there. He just had. I mean, to be fair, he was also quite good at Spice. He's had some good races. He's just had terrible luck with how things have played out. And today, again, that poor luck continues for Pajic, and just wrong place, wrong time, and those issues would persist. But realistically speaking, if they're going to go for the team's championship, he needs to do one thing. He needs to target whichever red line driver is the second one. Bonner House will try and win the race again. He'll try and beat whichever red line driver's potentially going to finish in second place. But then Pajic just needs to beat the other one. If that happens, that's it. That's the title. That's it sorted. The final round of the season is going to be intense, as drivers are trying to go for the championships, as drivers are trying to save themselves from relegation as well. It's going to be fantastic.
In terms of statistics, I would say it should be totally fine, because normally Siggy and Rietveld tend to be quicker than Pajic. But that's not enough if Bonner House once again wins, because then it also depends on where on the leaderboard Kevin Siggy and Jeffrey Rietveld will end up. And they're talking about the team standings. Here they are, right on your screen after the standings, at least for now, for Zandvoort. Obviously, Race Control still has to look these over. 256 points for Mercedes-AMG Petronas Esports team with Pajic and House, and then 252 for Team Redline with Kevin Siggy and Jeffrey Rietveld. Spurs Esports, they had a good race as well after all the problems for the other teams. in third, 226, a slight gap of 10 points in front of Farga Sim Racing, and then it's RAG and Red Bull Racing Esports. Williams Esports, they dropped down by 1 after this race. So I would say there's no one really diving into second or first from the back, and that's very unlikely. But yeah, these 4 points between Mercedes and Team Redline, it's definitely something that can go either way.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you say, when it comes down to that relegation bit, it does seem like things are pretty much sorted for those bottom 2 teams with Mustard GD Esports and John Lacey Esports Academy. We'll have to wait and see on that one, of course, in the final round of the season. On the driver's side of things, though, Bunnerhaus at the top of the standings with those 5 consecutive race victories now. I don't want to be doing some maths early and all that kind of stuff, but let's be honest, let's take a look at that. And it's a bigger than a 35-point gap. And I would say that means that Bunnerhaus would be confirmed as a champion provisionally. We'll have to wait and see on that one, just to double check everything and make sure that all I's are dotted and T's are dashed. Jeffrey Rietveld in second position with Kevin Siggy in third in that championship after a poor round from Kevin Siggy, and still only 2 points off of Rietveld in that tight battle for second. Hey, Marcel Chinchik's not far off. He's dragged his way back into the mix, and I wouldn't necessarily rule that one out as well, as Yone Simoncic in 5th place and Michi Hoyer in 6th. Erhan Yovski, second consecutive poor race from the Macedonian, as he drops down to 7th in the order after he was up in 3rd not too long ago. Dennis Jordan, Mohammed Patel and Yuri Toman round out the top 10 with Risto Capit, Martin Stefanko and Alex Siebel. After decent point scoring races from those 3, they move up into the top half of the standings, and plenty of other drivers are escaping the clutch of the bottom end, although in the driver's standings it's not necessarily the big fear to be at the bottom end of the driver's standings, not like it is in GT Pro. Payich there in 14th spot, and again, we'll say it, needs to score a little bit better than that, but realistically it was out of his control today. He did everything that he could, but only 14th from the standings at the moment for him. Liam Deval with Jan Vodderheide, who was missing from today's action, and Gianmarco Fiducci, who's starting to get better and better at this style of open wheel racing in 17th spot. Jordi's Veers also a decent result down the order. Plenty of talking points though, Rene, and once again, we've had this every time we've left around here. Bunnerhaus, he's done 5, maybe 6.
Yeah, and if he wants to do 6, then he has to do it in Monza for round 6 and the last round of our championship. The Formula Pro Series powered by Traction.gg, 27th of September. So in 2 weeks' time, we will know who gets the big first crown of the series in the Italian on the Italian racetrack. So mark that down in your calendar. Obviously on Friday, this Friday, you will see the rFactor 2 Formula Challenge Series, and then GT Pro Series returns next Monday together with the BMW M2 Sim Cup. So plenty of racing action for you to watch here on Traction.gg channel or on the rFactor live channel over at Twitch, which should be covering good race week for absolutely everyone, no matter what kind of racing you're into, no matter if it's open wheeler or GT racing. And that also means, Lewis, for us to say goodbye for tonight, as we definitely have to recover from all the action that just happened, and then we'll see everyone else in 2 weeks' time for the finale. And not quite sure, Lewis, if we want to say who we think who wins. I say we just leave it like that, instead just say goodbye.